Hey y'all, it's Lindsay. I am frustrated with me and I'm struggling. So I thought I would just sort of talk through those things just in case you may have these same feelings. But first of all, if you're new here, welcome. It would be kind of odd for the YouTubes to recommend a video like this as a first-time video, but I'm glad you're here. Poke around the channel, see if there's content that's entertaining to you, and consider subscribing. For my returning viewers, let's talk about this situation. I have been following a low-carb, keto-friendly lifestyle for almost 7 years at this point, and I've been on a health and wellness quest for many years before that. And since starting a low-carb, keto-friendly way of eating back in beginning of 2016, I didn't ever really feel like my resolve was a problem. I always felt resolute in the reality that sugar is not good for me specifically and my chemistry specifically. Carbs did not make me feel well, therefore carbs were not something I needed to eat consistently. I just figured a lot of these things out through a lot of trial and error, and once I kind of knew what I knew about what sugar does, what insulin does, how glucose is formed, how sucrose is formed, how fructose is formed, like how all of these things are interplaying together within the chemical makeup that is our bodies, I solidified in my brain like sugar, not for me, just not for me. And I never really had a problem with staying resolved in that understanding and that belief for my body specifically. I did divert a little bit when I was pregnant because I couldn't keep anything else down. And even though I would eat things like cereals or other carbs, I knew in my brain, this is not making me feel well, but it's the only thing that I can eat without losing it every 20 minutes. So I'm gonna do that. So it was a temporary situation. Pregnancy does not last forever. It was a temporary fix for a temporary situation. It was not difficult for me to jump back into eating low-carb, keto-friendly foods in a sugar-free way, which was the way that I found I felt my best after years and years of searching for a good way of eating for myself. This year, however, I have struggled more than I have ever struggled in my life, I feel, when it comes to health and wellness. In the past, I have been able to travel without any issue. I'm able to make really great choices depending on where we are, and I can stay true to a sugar-free and lower carb lifestyle. I might eat a few more carbs while we travel, but it's never just like a full-on carb fest for me. My brain is so resolute in the fact that the carbs are not my friend for my body chemistry specifically. And I don't go off the deep end, but we're usually traveling places where we have either access to a kitchenette, or we have access to our family's homes where we can cook food for ourselves, or it's just like a variety of things. You know, if you go to an Airbnb, you have access to a kitchen, you've got options where you can prepare food for yourself. I personally love to prepare food for us because I know what's happening in that food and I know what the results are generally going to be. The idea of going out to eat for a ton of meals or for every meal feels a little bit overwhelming to me. And so I generally like traveling where we do have the flexibility to prepare our own food or go out. However, this year, the past 12 calendar months, we have had a lot of big trips. It started back in the new year. We went to, we were in Colorado. That's where we were. I had to think about it. It's been almost a full year. So we were in Colorado, and then a few months later, we went to Scotland. And then a few months after that, we went to Mexico. And then a few months after that, we went to Italy and then Sicily. And resolve is amazing when you have the opportunity to exercise that resolve and then recuperate from that exercise. When you're exercising, there's usually, like you go and do all of the workout and then you have a recovery period. So stress and then recovery, stress and then recovery. Well, I feel like because there's been all the traveling, every few months, my recovery period, it's gotten a little bit more difficult each time. Now, I have been super grateful that all of those travel opportunities were offered to me, and I was able to go and experience all of those different cultures. And I wouldn't change that for the world. And now the result of me being back home is that I need to be back in my same mindset that I was before all of those things. So the resolve has been a little bit weak as of late. And I've had thoughts of like, could I just, for scientific purposes, check my blood sugar, see what an Oreo cookie does, and then check my blood sugar again? It's all science, it's all data. It's just to see what my body is doing. I'm trying to see if I'm metabolically flexible. So I've started to have these rationalizations in my mind, these conversations with me, and I'm a debater, whether I'm talking to somebody else or just to myself. So I'll sit there and I'll stand on both sides of the argument. Eating that sugar is going to turn you into a sugar monster, Lindsey. Do not do it. Science, Lindsey says, yeah, but think about the data we could collect. We could know so much more just by having all of this information from this one-off situation. And, you know, any good science experiment can be duplicated and replicated. So we might need to actually do that a few times. Now, I didn't go and eat the Oreo cookie. That wasn't a problem. But the debate in my brain has been the problem. And I don't want to play the games with myself anymore. I need a hard reboot, a reset. I need to, you hard reboot the phone when it starts going cattywampus on you and not performing the way that you want it to perform. To reset myself, I have decided that egg fast is a good tool, a good short-term tool for me specifically to use in order to rewrite my brain wiring. And so for the past 48 hours, I have been doing nothing but eggs and homemade mayonnaise, some sriracha, some black coffee, and electrolytes. So very simple, very, very narrow scope. Similar to an egg fast, not a true like egg fast protocol like you can find all over the interwebs, but eggs and fat and black coffee, just so I can reset myself. It's a great tool to have. It's a great tool to use when times like this show up. I started to wonder if my struggle with being resolved in my low carb keto friendly way of eating wasn't just an opportunity for me to see what other people might struggle with, because I know that there are so many people out there who do struggle with that resolve. There are so many people out there who they battle themselves every single meal they consume, and I have not had to do that. And it's hard. It's not fun. It's not a game. As many things I try to make everything a game in my life, but dealing with that resolve issue. And I thought using these tools that are in the toolbox and honing the skills of writing my thinking and then using specific protocols to help refocus is a good skill to continue to practice, to a muscle to exercise, more or less. So that's what's going on. I have only eaten, like I said, the past almost 48 hours. I plan to go until dinner tonight, and then it'll be done. And I will sort of ease my way back into a regular low carb, keto friendly way of eating. I'm trying to remember all the things I did back at the very beginning when I was still just learning and absorbing and drinking in all of the information on the internet, and trying to figure out how to implement that well and mindfully, and trying to parse out what does this mean? How does that play with this? How does that manage to overcome that thing? Like when you're still trying to work out the puzzles, you feel more like engaged and challenged. I don't know. I feel like that. If I'm not challenged, then I get lackadaisical. So anyway, a little bit of a egg fast reset, egg fast in quotations, for me, and hopefully it's helping. I mean, I haven't really had any cravings, and the thoughts of the Oreos have long since dissipated, and the idea of checking my blood sugar before and after having something with sugar in it, those thoughts are now, gone. So I do feel like having a reset in my brain is helping me with my resolve, but I don't want to get complacent, and I want to make sure to exercise my resolve on a daily basis and not get too lackadaisical, which is the same thing as complacent. which is a word I already just used. So be blessed by that. Didn't know I was going to read a thesaurus to you today, did ya? Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to talk those things out. It was just a simple thought that I had. I would love to know, what are things you choose to focus on when your resolve starts to waver? I have the egg fast that I can fall back on. I have wanted to try out a few different tools just to see what works well for me. But the simplest by and far for me is to just revert back to a 2 to 3 day egg fast and then get right back in there eating all the good stuff. Anyway, I hope to see you in my next video.